Dear friends, welcome to this 8th webinar of CineConf, powered by IMAX in association with Theatre World and Network 208. Today we shall discuss about the drive-in cinemas and its feasibility in today's situation. So for this we have Mr. Suresh Babu Daggubati, Managing Director of Suresh Productions, and he is also a producer, distributor, and an exhibitor. Next we have Mr. Morelia, Director of Operation at Oak Cinemas UAE. And we have architect Eranna Yekbote, Chief Architect at Era Architects. And we have Samarth Gandhi, President at Allied Enterprises. So I am Raghav from Theatre World moderating this webinar. To begin with, let's start a small presentation by architect Eranna. Over to you, Eranna.
Yeah, hi everyone. Thanks Raghav and the team at Theatre World. So I'm sharing my screen now. So I'm just going to make a brief presentation about drive-in cinemas and drive-in concept, which is actually a very old concept. And there were a lot of drive-in cinemas in the US, in Europe, in Australia, and you had a lot of them in India also. There are some which are there in Ahmedabad and Chennai, and it was closed in Mumbai. So we are trying to get the drive-in cinema concept back, and this is the right time to have social distancing, and drive-in cinema is happening in a few countries, and also there's a talk, and there are projects which are happening in India also. So I'm going to explain you the concept, the logic, how to plan a drive-in cinema from the existing parking lot or existing land. So how best you can utilize your space and how you can plan your drive-in cinemas. So this is a typical plan for drive-in cinema, where this is the situation where you have two roads, so one road on top on the north side and one road on the bottom side. So this is roughly around 4.5 or 5 acre plot, which is like 2.17 lakh square feet. So in a typical size of this plot, we can fit around. If you see, the most important thing in planning a drive-in cinema is the orientation of drive-in cinema and the location of the screen. So if you see this sketch, the ideal location should be on the west as much as possible, because the sun sets in the west and you get a longer duration of the night, and it's better for screen visibility to the audience who are seated in the car or they are in the whole space. So what you see here on the west side, you see a screen which is like a typical 60 feet wide screen, and we have a green patch in the front where people can actually park their cars. If they want to sit on the lawn and the green, they can sit in the front, and you see the projector which is there in the front, which projects on the 60 feet wide screen. And there is a entry from the top north. People can enter to this whole space, and you can see two yellow dots. They are actually ticket tier points or a ticket checkpoint. They can buy the tickets and they can get into the parking lot. And each car park is roughly around 3 meters by 6 meters, and then there's a driveway of around 4.5 to 5 meters, and they can come into their slot and park their car and orient themselves toward the screen and see the movie like that. And at the bottom you have the exit and the red dot, which is an exit point and which can be leading to the exit road at the bottom. So roughly this is about a plan for our 100 cars. So you can say around 2,200 square feet per car is an approximate space required for planning for drive-in cinema. So this is a single screen plan. Now I will make it more complicated and I will put a two screen plan. This is actually the same plan which I have copied at the bottom. Now this 5 acres become 10 acres and the 100 cars become 200 cars. So as an operator, as a cinema owner, they can have a flexibility of two screens in this particular plan. And also the screen is oriented on the west side and the entry is on the north side and the exit happens on the south side. So this is a typical plan. So this is around 4.3 lakh square feet, around say 5 acre plot for 200 cars. So So what I can do a creative way, if you want to have more screens, I think in multiplexes we have more number of screens so that we can have different types of shows and the timing can be staggered. So this is a very interesting sketch which I did in the morning just to show a concept, like you have a road on the north on the top and the road at the bottom, and then you can actually divide the same 5-acre plot into 4 screens, and you can have screens on all of the plot, and you can have an entry in the center, and you have a roundabout in the center, and you can have the entry exit out. So each screen is divided. There are like 75 screens, 75 cars per screen. So you can have around 200 cars in this particular concept. So it's a very interesting concept. One can actually get into details and work on it, and you can have the center part as the main resource area. Like you can have food and toilets, and all these things can be centralized and can be used optimum for all the 4 screens. And going forward, we have made some concept plans for some projects. This is actually a drive-in cinema in near Mumbai. It's between Mumbai and Pune, and we have around 450 cars parked here. And this screen size is actually around 55 meters. It's a big screen, and we have around a stage at the bottom, and they can also have some kind of shows like rock shows, and all the multi-purpose activities can happen, and even the cinemas can also happen. This actually is a big parking lot which was empty, so we have developed that parking lot into a cinema entity. So this is the parking, and this is another view of the same. And Raghu, now you can play the video of this particular project, which will actually give a full idea about the drive-in cinema, how it works. So you can have some seating in the front, and people can do a picnic, and then all the activities can be planned on the sides, both the sides and the back. So they can have some concession or snacks on the sides of the whole plan. So this is the sketch. Over to Raghu.
Yeah, thank you, Eranna. It was a wonderful presentation. Firstly, I'll go to Mr. Murray. Murray, Oaks being one of the largest chain in Middle East, tell us what made you to venture into the drive-in theatres?
Thanks, Raghav. Good afternoon, everybody. Our prime motivation when we set up our drive-in cinema at Mall of Emirates was to do 2 things, really. Was obviously all of our cinemas had closed down, which was very unfortunate, but we wanted to maintain a connection between ourselves and the cinema going public and make sure that they didn't forget about us while they were at home doing, on lockdown during the COVID period. So that was really important to us. The second thing was that the project itself was as much as anything else, it was a promotion for Mall of Emirates. So it's important to realize that our drive-in cinema was actually quite small. It only holds 60 to 70 cars. So as a pure commercial operation, it probably wouldn't have a long-term return on investment, but it did serve us very well with its 2 objectives, which were to maintain a connection with our customers and to promote Mall of Emirates at a time when it had been closed and was just about to reopen for normal retail business.
Oaks made the drive-in cinema setup very quick, since before the world anyone could make it. So how easy or hard was it to get into this transition?
For us, it was really easy, and you're quite right. It's a project that we turned around very quickly. In fact, it was something between 7 and 10 days from start to finish. But we were blessed with a landlord who was highly motivated to get something quick to the market. We had a magnificent car park that had all of the facilities, including washrooms and power source, and everything was already there for us. So we were really converting an existing space. So our infrastructure project and costs were somewhat lower than what they would be if we were to be given a piece of land and have to develop from scratch. So you're right, we were able to turn around very quickly for that exact reason. We also had a cinema downstairs, I might add, with 24 screens, so we're able to go and borrow a projector and move it upstairs very quickly, amongst some other equipment that we needed that made the job relatively simple.
Right. Suresh sir, as a producer, distributor and exhibitor, tell us about the situation of Indian cinema during this pandemic situation.
What is there to tell? Very, very difficult times. As producers, there's no shooting going on, even though many states have given permissions to shoot. The actors and the technicians and the units are still not comfortable to shoot. Because the fear factor is still not gone off. B, to maybe small shoots like OTT, some smaller OTT films going directly to small OTTs, or films going to television are happening, or small television shows, even those are happening with a lot of restraint. The movies need a lot of dance and fight and that kind of stuff. So people are not venturing to shoot, and I don't see people starting for another month or so, at least in Hyderabad. We're trying to see what we can do best. And we also don't know when the theaters are going to open, though there is some talk that theaters might open in Dussehra. Seeing the other businesses, the restaurant business or the pub business, wherever they've let us open, there's been very, very poor footfalls. Now, the others are okay, where it is just dependent on that one single owner. Here, if a theater has to operate, he needs a producer's film. Now, how many producers are going to be ready to come and give their films out when the collections are not going to be good is the biggest worry that everybody has. See, I'm a producer myself. I'm not planning to do my bigger film shoots for quite a while. So, and I also know, to me personally, I want to take the patient wait and then watch kind of thing, because I know eventually we'll be in great shape. I have no worry about cinema being lost. I know a lot of films are going to OTT. These are all short-term problems which we will have to face. But once we open, it could be 6 months later, 1 year later, a year and a half later, there will be so much of pent-up demand for coming and viewing something outdoor in a cinema property. That's when we'll have to really wait and make our money. This problem is not man-made. So till we get the solution, which is a long way off, things are going to be quite bad. Distributors, exhibitors, so you can forget the distributor, there's nothing to distribute. For the exhibitor, he has to be patient. We think that by just opening up, few people will come and everything will go back. I'm not of that opinion, because I know that it's not going to lead anywhere. It will only further our losses and it will not help things. So these are difficult times. So we just have to wait and watch. But the silver lining is people are talking of work from home. So that's going to bring a lot of people out eventually to cinemas. A lot of producers have a lot of time, a lot of writers have a lot of time. They're all planning, they're doing a lot of scripts. Many actors are planning to do multiple films. So that will be, the flow of cinema will be good. A lot of content will be available for the cinema. So that way, eventually, I'm seeing a very bright light at the end of the tunnel. But this dark tunnel is going to be there for a long time. We have to tread very carefully in that.
Right. Sir, recently I visited 2 of the malls in Bangalore. When I went to a shopkeeper and spoke, he was referring to cinema, that since cinema is not functioning, that is why we don't see that footfalls. So do you think that mall business means more dependent on cinema?
See, definitely cinema is helpful for the mall, But then you see some standalone shops doing reasonably well, better than a mall-based shop. A standalone, you get off the street, you go into the store and come back. In a mall, you're worried it's a completely covered space, air-conditioned space. The chances of interacting are much more. And people's needs have also become very specific. They're doing mostly online shopping, unless it is some grocery shopping or take. They've cut away all bills and things that are there in life. I have a wedding in my family. There is no shopping being done. Whatever little clothes or some things have to be bought, they're all being sent directly to home. Otherwise, there would have been just so much of shopping and all these things. That fear is still there in people, and every day you hear more and more cases, more and more. The circle is becoming smaller. Earlier, it was somebody else was getting corona. Now your friends are getting it, your relatives are getting it. So people are going off into a shell. It is not good, but you can't tell anybody to just go ahead, you go around and conduct yourself properly. And as a country, I should say that we are not as disciplined as we should be when we have to wear a mask and go around everywhere, when we have to maintain social distances. We have not been doing that. At least one set of people are not doing it, and that's what is leading to more problems. So it's a very, very bad time. It's not something that we really wished for. But I think I'm very patient, and I'm very, very, I have infinite faith that things will be eventually good. But this is going to be a painful ride.
Fine. So what changes would happen in the industry due to this pandemic?
Like I told you, in the film industry, the actors, after they come back, they have now been a little slow in the way they took up their projects. I see the big stars doing more films, which is good, where we'll have more content available. I see producers also looking at OTT, things which they were not looking at. How do we make content for other things? I see we've been having a lot of bad habits, the way we conducted ourselves. There were some changes that we needed to make. So there is enough time for us to retrospect and introspect and see what is it that we really need to change. How do we make our films better? How do you do animation better? So these things will happen. A lot of people are looking at animation-based scripts. We've actually done something which will be soon out on a very important OTT. We've done a talk show. We produced one in this time, completely animated. So a lot of people are looking at animated shows, films, and television episodes. So the thought process has changed. It's given us a lot of time to think, because we're all so busy in our regular world. We don't do our research. We don't do that further education, the further training that we all need to have. I think many of us are now getting that and learning from the others in our business and other businesses. So I think we'll be a much smarter and a better industry when we come back.
Murray, question to you. Due to this pandemic, people are scared to come out of their homes. So what kind of customers you are targeting? And if you can share some experience, what kind of people are coming to your drive-in cinemas, and why they come, and what they get? So some kind of experience, if you can share.
Okay. I think initially we were selling tickets. It's important to note that we are selling tickets only online. So it's a fully contactless experience for customers, which they appreciate. It gives them it definitely makes them feel safe coming to an environment where we minimize the amount of contact between staff and customers. The tickets were initially sold in pairs, so you could bring a car, but it was only for 2 people. So we typically found that it was couples, and the ages were varying from young teenagers who were dating to husband and wives having a date night, that kind of thing. Latterly, we got a lot of requests for whether we could provide more family content, and asking if they could bring a couple of children along to sit in the back seat, which is something that we're moving towards now. In terms of the content, obviously, as Suresh was just at great pains to explain, there's no new content available in the market. So we were showing movies, to be honest, some of them were up to 6 months old. Some of the stuff that we were releasing even prior to Christmas in late 2019. It tended to be that actually the movie itself was not the driving factor. What was the driving factor was to have a cinematic experience, to have a safe night out, to perhaps experience something that was different and new. I mean, drive-in cinema in itself is not new. It's been around since the 1950s in various formats. But in recent times here in the UAE, we've had no drive-in cinemas. In fact, the malls that we operate actually successfully killed drive-in cinema. So it's quite ironic, really, now that malls are closed, so drive-in cinema is seeing a resurgence. So, and to answer your question, we've been a really varied customer base. It started out being couples, and more recently we've had requests for family content because people want to bring their kids out now that they've seen and understand that it's a safe environment and it's a different experience for people.
So how is the pricing done? It's pricing per head or per car? So how is it done? Or it's a premium pricing something?
It was the ticketing that we regime that we employed here was that we sold the tickets was per car on the understanding that there was 2 people in the car. If you decided to come on your own, then you would still pay the same price. What was important for us is that we bundled food and beverage into the same ticket price. And we did this because we really needed to get the revenues per car up to quite a high level to make the project economically stack and to get some return on our investment, although the commercial considerations weren't upmost in our thoughts. You know, there were other reasons that we were doing this project. But if we felt that if we didn't bundle food and beverage into the package, then people might not actually buy much food and beverage, or they might bring food from home given that they're coming in their car, which would economically would destroy the return on investment or the P&L.
Okay.
It is a premium price package. I mean, we get away with much higher ticket prices here in the UAE, but we were getting very close to $50 per ticket for 2 people, including food and beverage, which was 3 portions of popcorn, 1 of nachos, 2 waters, and 2 Pepsis. It was a very generous food and beverage package, but it was important for us to get that into a bundle.
So I think it's almost 30 to 40 days you started the cinema. So what is the occupancy level in the cinema now?
Actually, we've enjoyed. It's been a really popular concept, and we're in the low 40s now. But our occupancy for the concept from day one till now has actually been 87%, which that's staggeringly high, and we're very fortunate to have achieved that. But it's important to note, until last week we were only running 1 show per night. We've now extended it to 2 shows per night. So our first show is at 7:30 p.m. just after sunset here in Dubai, and then we do a later show at 10:30 p.m. that runs until 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning. The earlier show is better attended than the later one currently, but overall we've managed to achieve an attendance of 87% occupancy, which we've been really pleased with and gives us hope that we can develop the concept a little bit further in the future.
Coming back to you, Suresh sir, though there are only few drive-ins currently operation in India, so that is Prarthana drive-in in Chennai and few other drive-ins. So what makes you to venture into this space?
See, to me, even before the lockdown, I had a few properties which were empty. So I thought that I should build these drive-in cinemas there. See, in India, it makes sense because if you have an empty property, it makes sense to do some activity there to keep away the other problems which normally tend to happen. So I was planning actually 3 or 4. I had a site in Hyderabad, 1 in Tirupati, and 1 in Visakhapatnam. So we wanted to do 1 in each of these properties. So I had the plans and everything done. I knew it was more like an add-on to the regular cinema business. it's not that that is going to generate enough revenue for the distributors to make sense for them to give films there. We have only 2 shows per week, per day maximum. And in India, we have this mosquito problem. So the whole experience of sitting in a car with air conditioning on for the entire 3 hours. So it's not always the best. But now that this has happened, and when I was a child, I used to go to a restaurant called Woodlands Restaurant in Chennai. It was a drive-in restaurant, one of the first, and we used to really enjoy the food there. So I thought something with both, where eating is also a very important part. It's not just selling your popcorn and other things. To do your idli, dosa, sambar, to do the old Chennai Woodlands drive-in restaurant with cinema as a added benefit for the people who come in. It's not about cinema, it's about people coming out. I thought instead of going to restaurants, they would come more here. And that's why we were thinking whether we should do it at this time. But to me, cracking the food to make really good food, or having a good vendor who can do the best food, is what might be a better seller in these days. Eventually, when it comes up, now that this has happened, maybe a few here and there will come up, more to take care of the land, to make their other developments popular, where you build this and then you have maybe a housing complex which will come up or something else. So the address becomes more important. With better highways, things are much better. The ORR helps in Hyderabad and in Visakhapatnam. But the traffic within the city, to beat it all and go there, is a negative again. Because even to go to regular cinema, many people have started avoiding going to our regular theaters. Traffic has been one of the reasons. After coming back home, you don't want to drive another hour and a half to go back into the movie theater and again come back late night. So with all this, it was just there for me. It's not that I knew that we will have to sell that place as more an outdoor wedding place also. It's just not that it would survive just as a cinema property. Outdoor wedding space, give an opportunity to build some kind of temporary tent so that they can conduct marriages also. And some of these properties that I have overlook lakes and they overlook the sea. So they had natural beauty. So I thought it will go hand in hand for that. So that's why I was planning. And now that this has happened, it looked like, okay, should we try it out now or not? Now we'll have to see what permissions are required. Earlier, I'm not probed into all that. So I'll have to see whether it's workable or not.
Okay. So coming to the main section, Murak, can you explain us about the F&B at this drive-ins?
Sure. As I said before, there was a couple of considerations for us. First of all, we did an all-inclusive ticket price. It was bundled up. It included 2 cinema tickets and food and beverage. In fact, a very generous amount of food and beverage for 2 people. That was one consideration. The other was that our customers were looking for a very safe and hygienic contactless experience. So we pre-packaged all of the popcorn, nachos and soft drinks and put them into a bag. And as people were arriving at the usher point of our drive-in, we would give them a bag of food to place into their car at that point in time. That meant that people were arriving and had fewer points of contact in order to get to their car park. So first of all, they had bought their tickets online. They arrived, showed a QR code to the ushers at the usher point, and then had their food and beverage given to them at the same time. And then they were free to go and find or get directed to their particular car parking space, which meant that we cut down the number of points of contact between our staff and the customers, which I think that they really appreciated. And it was certainly a driving factor for them and for us to make the whole experience as safe as possible, given the challenges that we've currently got.
Okay. So you mean you give only the packed food. So if somebody wanted something extra, so they can pay and buy it?
Yeah, we have an online an app by which people can buy food and beverage in the cinema normally, and we converted that to be used at the drive-in scenario. We sold a standard package, and then we gave people the option to add on bolt-on products. So if they wanted hot food, like hot dogs and burgers and these kind of items, we did make them available. But I have to say that the uptake on those items was really very small. And I think that's because the basic package itself was very generous. There was no need. You'd have to be very hungry to be ordering more food, to be honest.
Right. Suresh sir, what is the minimum space required to start the drive-in cinemas?
Like Eranna had put it, we need that 4 or 5 acres minimum to do a 100-seater, a 100-carer. That's the requirement. You need that 4 or 5 acres. See, because then you can, otherwise, if you want to pack it up like a regular car park where one car is behind the other car and they all leave in then it could be you can use lesser amount of land. But if you want a good experience, we definitely need 4 or 5 acres minimum. And land is very expensive in India.
Right.
Land is
so 4 or 5 acres, and what is the minimum investment we might need?
The investments are not much. See, now do you want to landscape the whole property so well? Because the basic screen is something that could be just RCC wall up to one level, and then you can do an MS structure or whatever that could be done. Now, projector, there are now if you're going to get something leased off the Cuban UFO people, then the cost is very minimal there. They will also be willing to do it. Sound, you're anyway going with the FM system, which is in the audio, so that cost is much lower today. Now, it is on the, it depends on the kind of food that you're planning to sell. How is it going to be just standalone, or is that property having toilets and other facilities, or you need to build them exclusively for this? So that could be another cost. See, we were even planning things from a low 60 lakhs to a high 1 crore. We should do these projects. That was our idea, not to make it much more than that. And then see the kind of terrain that you are in. Now you don't have to interlock stone. You can just put a jelly stone on that. It's how you want to really do it. And now what is it that you need to cover by the sides? If you have too much of viewing from other, it depends on your property. If you're on top of a hill, nobody's going to watch from sitting outside. Now, if you're in some other place, if you're on the lower side, then a lot of people view into your place. So those kinds of things will be small things. But to me, I was in that max 60, 80 lakhs. I wanted to finish all these and give them a great experience. Then Eranna will come in and anyway make things glamorous for us. So then we'll have to see.
Right. So you mean, if I am a cinema owner and I'm a struggling owner, single screen or a small chain owner, so do you suggest me to invest in drive-ins?
No, not today. That land will be valuable.
Right.
Basically, you'll have to see. You see, basically, all the single screen owners are running that business because they have some passion or they have some emotion to that space. Most of the single screens in India are in good locations. So either the property is the last 30 years, 40 years, 50 years as a cinema, grandfather built it, father built it. So they all want to hold it like that. Or it has too many partners, they don't want to break it down and build something. Or you will not get enough permissions to do something else there. So they are all continuing like that. With the real estate cost which is there, it really doesn't make sense for them to. And those are all just 2,000 to 3,000 yard properties, most of the single screens. It's not that we have single screens where they have 5 acres, 10 acres land around. Those are very rare. I don't know. Very few of them have it. And if they had so much land, they would definitely do something else. See, because our ROI our return is going to be very small. It's more like an event that you're doing. Now, if you're in the outskirts, you're in the surroundings of the city, and if you're able to sell a lot of other things, if you're able to do concerts, if you're able to do weddings, if you're able to do other events in this property, then it makes sense. If you also have a wedding hall and you have a car parking lot, there you throw it in, then it becomes a very viable business. So it should become part of another business. Then it makes sense. See, internationally, it's more viable because the car parking lots are very huge. So every property has fantastic car parking lots. Here, we are all either underground or very small car parking lots. Very few places, I think, other the old Chennai Satyam had a decent lot. Otherwise, I don't see many properties having where you can park 100 cars easily, back to back with space left aside. Is not so easy.
Right.
So I would ask people to, unless the government says that cinema is never going to happen, you're never going to open theaters forever in your life, then maybe 1,000 theaters should come up and keep the cinema experience on. See, that's when, see, these are calls that we'll have to take as time goes on. In today's days, if you do it, you can throw in some old films here and there, and I'm sure the way the government gives out permissions, we don't know whether they'll give us permissions to do this. So it might be a stopgap advantage, but not a long-term definite business to do. If there is no land and other things involved, not exclusive.
So, what do you think? Like tier 3 cities, the land cost might be less if you take the tier 3 cities outskirts.
But then the number of cars in those towns are not. Tier 3 cities, towns are also very expensive. But then the number of cars in those places are limited also.
Right.
You'll have to be in places where there are a lot of vehicles, tier 1, tier 2 cities. You can't go down and expect people to come.
Right. Coming back to you, More. So, how do you look at the ROI of this drive-in cinema?
I think Suresh is 100% correct in what he says, that you almost need to have the gift of the land, or you need to have the land available to you that was there for another purpose, and it needs to have some of the infrastructure already in place, like some kind of a hard seal, possibly buildings that have kitchens or washrooms and that sort of thing already there. I think if you were starting from scratch and you had to rent a piece of land and you had to hard seal it and you had to build all of those facilities, it would be extremely difficult to get a reasonable return on your investment. You would have to be building a drive-in cinema that could accommodate, I would say, over 200 cars, probably getting towards 300 cars. And then you'd have to hope for an occupancy of around 50% over the business week, which, if I'm to be honest, is fantastical. I think it's really difficult to achieve that. Your motivations have to be that you're utilising a piece of land that's already an asset of yours or available to you for some reason, or if you're just trying to promote something else. In our case, it was Mall of Emirates. In many other cases, it could be a real estate development, or it could be part of a wider project. As a standalone one-off business, I think they're very hard to get a return off. The problem is you're building all of this infrastructure for essentially a one auditorium cinema that's only going to have 2 shows maximum per day, and it just doesn't stack.
How was the permissions taken? Means how easy was the permissions at your cinemas? How easy you could get the permissions?
The process for us here in Dubai and in the UAE was actually relatively simple, and it was simple for us because of a number of reasons. First of all, we did ours on the rooftop of Mall of Emirates underneath Ski Dubai, and we already operate a cinema within that building. So we were able to transfer most of the licenses that we already have, basically from downstairs to upstairs. We also had the local authorities were really cooperative because they were keen to see events happening around the city that were safe, that would sort of help to regenerate the economy. Probably the most tricky one for us was getting a FM license. That was a process that would ordinarily take well over a month, but we were able to pull a few strings and managed to get that done in under a week or so. But a radio transmission license is quite tricky. There's a lot of different authorities that need to be satisfied that you're doing the right thing and you're not up to no good, and that the range is within acceptable parameters and that kind of thing. And there are other solutions. There's Wi-Fi solutions or using external speakers, but they just will not give you the customer experience that your customers will be after in this day and age. That's possibly how things were done in the past, and they are not good enough anymore for the expectations of customers.
Suresh sir, something similar question to you. So, what about the permissions for drive-ins? Is there something in place?
See, the permissions for cinemas in India itself are some 50, 100-year-old permissions. They've just not even modified those. We've been asking every government to make some changes, make the rules much more simpler. So as of now, I don't know what the permissions are. Definitely, we will not be violating anything for sure. That much I know. But officially, we will have to go through the same cinematographic thing, and I've not yet looked into that. So it's the same bureaucratic problems will happen. There was a theater in Visakhapatnam, they managed to get it. So they run a hybrid model where in the morning you have a small auditorium. It shuts down and you can watch a 60-seater, 70-seater auditorium. And then in the evening, he opens up the glass window. So there are 60 people, 70 people who sit in that auditorium and they watch the outdoor screen also. Even that is just to take on the rainy day and stuff like that. He's been trying all these things so that he could model where he has both a regular screen and through the regular screen you watch the drive-in. So it's there and quite innovatively he did it. But it's just there. It's not that it's made any major marks. It's a little bit on the outsides of the city. So, and it's not an area which is on the premium side of the town. So he's done reasonably well. Now, I wouldn't say he was rocking or anything. So these kinds of things will happen. So since he got the permissions, we were sure that we'll be able to get it. There's nothing tricky. There's no rocket science in this whole thing. Not that the wall is going to fall on the ground or something.
Okay. Over to you, Samarth. Can you give us some info about the technical aspects of the drive-in?
These are very similar to what we have in multiplexes, but much easier because you don't have the sound aspect, which we cannot make it immersive here because you're sitting in the open air. You cannot have speakers around you or inside the cars to make it more immersive, like what Dolby has done or what we call as object-based sound. So there are two aspects to it. One would be the visuals part. The second would be the audio part. So visuals part would have two things in it. One would be the screen. The other would be the projector. So the projection surface could be anything. It just have to complement the projector. What we will be providing will depend on the screen size and the viewing angles and everything. So if we talk about the projection surfaces, it can be an inflated screen. It can be a prefabricated structure with a reflective coating over it, or maybe an RCC wall with a reflective coating over it. If you don't have a reflective coating over it, then you'll need a bigger projector so that you can get the right brightness and the colors on it. Then the projector would again depend whether you want to go with the DCP format or the normal non-DCI format that we say that we can run it for our regional movies and Bollywood movies. So if you want to play Hollywood movies in it, then you'll need a DCI projector, a DCP projector. So it can be HD, 2K, 4K, depending upon the concept the owners have in mind and whatever amount they want to invest in the drive-ins. Now, when we come to the audio part of it, this will be a bit varied and a vague segment for our country because what rest of the countries are doing, they are transmitting sound using FM. So, but there are no such norms here in the country whether we'll be able to get the broadcasting permissions here or not. So, if the permissions are there, if there is certainty from the government, you can go ahead with FM transmission and send the sound directly to the cars of the patrons which are coming in to their entertainment units. Otherwise, what you can do, you can use wireless form of sound transmission. It can be Bluetooth, it can be over wireless network as well, which can directly go to the cars, or you can hand over a device to the patrons and they can keep it inside their car and listen to the sound. But seeing the situation, it is not safe to hand over anything to anybody these days. So FM transmission is the safest one. Otherwise, what you can do, what people are doing abroad is sending sound to their phones directly using different applications. So there are applications which work on wireless network. You can give them the access to the network, and they can just add your device to the network and have the sound played in the car itself. Then for cinemas, if they have the equipment ready, they can always use it in their parking lots and everywhere so that they can have a drive-in cinema ready.
So what kind of a screen can we have for the drive-in cinemas?
See, it is always the same for everywhere. A screen must complement the projector. Till the time the screen is not complementing the properties of the projector, there is no point of having any surface in front of the projector because you won't be able to get the right experience. So, like I said, you can have a inflated screen. It has its own drawbacks. You have to be ready to deflate it when the weather is not good. You have to be ready to deflate it when there is a lot of wind going on, and you have to mount it in a way that there are no vibrations at all. Then, if you are going for a prefabricated structure or an RCC wall, there are coatings which come, which you can have it on the structure. Reflective coating by the screen manufacturers. Like what we do, we have a coating by Strong MDI in the name of Orion. You can just coat it over an RCC wall and it'll act as a complete screen. And they have used it in many adventure parks and such kind of places, wherein they are using RCC wall and prefabricated structure. You just have to level the surface and have a coating over it.
So if you do the coating, will it be okay for the weather?
See, anything is not weather retardant these days. There will be dust in our country, there will be mosquitoes everywhere. You have to keep it clean, or you'll have to redo the coating every time it has gotten damaged.
No,
Even in cinema, you cannot prevent the screen from moisture or dust or any other particle inside the cinema hall itself. So if it is outside, it becomes really more difficult.
I'm not looking at the mosquitoes and the dust. What about the rain and the hard sunshine?
Yeah, so that will be protected by so it is a partial weather retardant coating or a surface which will be giving, but to keep it secure, you'll have to cover it once the shows are not running. So be it a inflated screen, you'll have to deflate it every time you're not running the show and inflate it before the show has started and get the projector calibrated before the show just for a test. And if it is an RCC structure or a prefabricated structure, you just have to cover it so that there is no nothing due to the rains and the sun that we have in our country.
Okay. So coming back to you, Suresh sir, will people come back to the drive-in after regular cinemas are open?
See, if that location is good, there'll be a few people who will come in. There is not that they will not come. They will definitely come. If the locations are good, it'll be a different outing that they will have. And if the food will become a key. It's not that if there is good food being served, people will come and watch. I'm not. There will be a market for it, but not that it will be the market. There will be a simple, decent market for it. If somebody has land which he doesn't have to cost, if it's part of another entity, it will surely work reasonably well. It's an added attraction that you have into what you're doing together.
Okay. Murray, what is Oak's upcoming drive-in cinema plans?
Most likely we'll operate for another 2 or 3 weeks, and then the weather here will just get too hot that even with air conditioning in the car, it would be an uncomfortable experience for 2.5 hours. So we'll probably close it down for the summer period and then look to reopen it again in the cooler months next winter, so from September onwards. We might modify it slowly. It depends on the regulations that will be in force at that time around social distancing and that kind of thing. We think that it's got potential for being a drive-in meets outdoor concept, kind of a picnic type cinema, deck chair cinema, beanbag cinema, that kind of thing. So yeah, we're interested to develop it further, but in its current format, it's probably only got another 2 or 3 weeks to run, and then it just gets too hot here. It's already 45 degrees Celsius in the daytime at the moment. So you can imagine it's starting to get a little bit sticky.
Right. So how do you look at the potential in the world for drive-in cinemas?
How do I see the potential? I see it as being interesting as a pop-up event. I think it will complement our core cinema business. I certainly don't see it as being an alternative. The economics of running drive-in cinema versus running a multiplex where you can have, up to 10 shows a day in a business day, make it very difficult to get the returns that are required.
Yeah. I think that's all from the questions what I had. Okay, we'll take some of the Q&A. I think most of them we addressed. One Mr. Vinit Kumar Jain is asking, if we do not have good ambience inside, how we will attract the people to come to drive-in? In such a case, the cost of 80 lakh may not be right. Suresh sir, you can answer this.
See, that's why I told you, it's just a stopgap kind of thing. See, the ambience, if your property has already certain advantages, then your cost is, it depends on, are you starting from scratch or are you starting with something else that you already have? Mr. Murray also has mentioned, you have toilet facilities in that place which can suit a cinema. Then you have, see, I was doing it in my Visakhapatnam studio. We had the toilets already there. We had many of these things there already. So it's how you're going to add on to it. And the one who started from scratch, he was able to do it in that cost, and he's running a reasonably viable business in Visakhapatnam already. He has a very small thing. I don't have the name of that property, but he's running with it. See, now I didn't put the cost of projection. I was just going to lease it from the player. So then there is no equipment cost for me. And I would just go for a wall and paint the wall up. I'm not even going to have an inflatable screen. So this is definitely not to come and beat your multiplex experience. This is a totally different experience. I want to sit with my car, with my wife or my girlfriend, just want to watch a movie. Or if I have a pickup truck, I bring my pickup truck, put 2 bean bags, sit on it and just watch it. And there's good wind. See, like I told you, at least our properties, they overlook an ocean, there's stuff like that. So you're just having a good time and then having good food to eat. It's more like an eating and also watching cinema kind of experience. I'm not talking of saying just pure cinema, great sound, great picture. So that's the way we have to look at this business. Otherwise, this will never make sense. It doesn't make any economic sense. Just 2 shows, and we have so many rainy days in a year. So those days the shows get cancelled. And in between a show, there might be rain, it will go off. Even if so all these things are bound to happen. So it's just it's not serious business. It's another entertaining business, one part of it.
It's kind of a novelty, you mean?
It was a novelty initially, but maybe it could become a novelty now again. If I don't know, will we be able to make it a place where people will come and show off their cars? Everybody comes, and then you have only a Lamborghini week or only stuff like that. Can you do events around vehicles? We'll have to look at all those things. Since we've not put great thought into that, but those kinds of things will happen. Will there be, then will you do a heritage car rally and bring all your old cars and only old cars are allowed to come? So these kinds of things will happen, and then you need to make it more an event place than just watching cinema. See, that's the way we'll have to look at it.
Fine. Next question, what do you recommend for altering layout for an uphill grade parking lot? Placing screen at the top or bottom of the hill. This is by Clary Lau. Eranna, you'll be able to answer this?
It is better to have the screen as high as possible, and then there has to be a grading, like the slope is better. If there is a natural grading, it's nothing like it's very good that you have a screen, the first car at the bottom, and then it goes uphill towards the backside. So that's a natural slope is there. But the very important thing is the location of the direction of the screen. So you have to place the screen as close to the west side so that the sun sets there, and then you get maximum number of duration of time for the hour of the shows. Raghav.
Fine. Next, Mr. Emmanuel is asking to Murray, how did you set up the sound in the drive-in cinema?
So what we did is we got a dedicated FM frequency allocated to the cinema space, and then we used an FM transceiver and we broadcast through, my memory serves me correctly, the frequency was 87.1 that we were allocated. As the cars arrived to the drive-in cinema, as they passed through the usher point, we instructed them to turn the frequency of their radios to 87.1, and then our whole pre-show and our main feature was broadcast through the car stereos of the cars themselves. I would recommend that if you have the resources to do that, that is definitely the best way to do it. We did try it with Wi-Fi, but we found that it wasn't as reliable, and there was a very short lag between the presentation on the screen and the audio coming into the cars, which didn't lead to a very great cinematic experience. In the old days, they obviously used to use small speakers and place them inside cars, but I doubt that you can even buy that equipment any longer. That's kind of what was used in the 1950s and 1960s. So FM transmitter is the route that we went down, and for us it worked fantastically well.
Murray, I understand that we require some kind of permission for using the FM frequency.
We did. We had to go to the local authority here and get permission. They allocated a specific frequency for this project for a particular length of time, and we paid a fee for that allocation. And actually, once you drive away from the mall property itself, within 500 meters, the frequency drops away to nothing. So it's particular to the location where we had the drive-in cinema.
So is it mandatory to use the car speakers for the audio, or do you have the speakers outside the car also?
No, only the ones that are inside the car only. We don't have a tannoy system around the car park at all. In fact, given the current social distancing regulations, people don't leave their cars or open the car doors anyway. It's very much an in-car experience. And to be honest, the quality of sound equipment and stereos that are inside cars now, the sound quality was right up to the mark. It was really very good in most cases.
Okay, Samarth, so what kind of a solution you can provide in this sound space?
See, it can be FM transmitted as well. It can be over your wireless network as well. It can be through wireless headphones as well. It can be through standing speakers right beside the car, which is a very conventional way of doing it. But now, as you know, we have better features in our cars itself. Sound can directly be transmitted. We have good speakers, be it JBL, Harman, Bose speakers installed in them. So almost every car comes with an entertainment unit, and they have that option of turning into a specific frequency. And so this one right now is to go ahead with the FM transmission, considering we are able to get the casting. The alternative is to sending it, giving a wireless device to keep in the car. So many places are doing with some are doing it with wireless speakers, which they keep it in the car, are sending the sound directly to the phones.
Okay. The last one is Mr. Chetan says, how is piracy controlled in drive-in cinemas? So Suresh sir, you can take this.
See, if somebody is going to put a camera and shoot it, it's going to be the same thing. It's the same problem that you have in a multiplex that you'll have here. Nothing different from what it is. It's just like how somebody is watching, and if he's going to shoot it through his car window or something, it's going to happen that way. Or he brings a camera in his car and puts it up and he shoots it. That's going to be the same.
But here the possibility is more.
Not really, not really. It's quite obvious. It's somebody is doing it. There'll be enough ushers who can easily have a look in to see if somebody is putting up a camera there. Probably lesser it's because there'll be more visible. You can have more people walking there.
Right. I think that's all from the questions. Thank you. Hope we addressed all the questions, queries. Thank you all the panelists, Suresh sir, More, Eranna, and Samarth. Special thanks to all the attendees. And keep visiting www.cineconf.com for more details about upcoming webinars. You can also check our previous webinars videos on the same site. Yeah, and the same webinar video will be shared tomorrow. It will be online. So this CineConf webinar is being powered by IMAX in association with Theatre World and Network 208. Thank you all again.